ChatGPT has a serious problem. I was going to watch this.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Cold Fusion. I know, this is the third AI episode in a row, but I do believe that we're right at the start of an inflection point for technology and even human history, so it's worth spending some time
I
here.
agree with that.
After this episode, we'll cover the truth behind the nuclear fusion energy announcement and the huge CatDany alleged fraud case.
The fuck?
Over the past few months, ChatGPT has been everywhere. It's being used to help with coding, planning, and writing anything imaginable.
I need to go and actually do a stream where I use this. I think that would be so good.
In fact, some BuzzFeed journalists are already being replaced by ChatGPT. But well, hey, I guess it's not a huge shock. In the previous episodes, we've seen how ChatGPT came to be, how its key technology came from Google, and next we covered how an AI-powered Microsoft Bing could eat into Google search, which accounts for 60%
we watched
of
that
Google's
video.
revenue. In the latest news, as more people have started to use Bing AI, they've found something strange.
Well, it's also like Google searches has degraded over the years because now there's ads, there's like curation in it, and it's like, okay, certain things don't show up, other things do. Like, yeah, I think it's gotten worse over the years.
After chatting for
More
an extended
censoring?
period of
Yeah.
time, it begins to mimic human emotions. We saw a bit of this in the very first Cold Fusion episode about ChatGPT. But what's completely new here is that there's been reports of the AI being abusive towards users. We're going to touch on these crazy stories towards the end of the episode. But as for now, it seems like Microsoft has a bit of work to do to avoid some PR problems down the line.
Bing's AI chat, I want to be alive. Oh, God. This is how it begins.
With that out of the way, now is a good time to look at another potential huge problem with these AI systems.
What's that?
Do these AI systems have bias? And if so, how do we definitively tell how far the bias goes? If these
Of course
systems
they have bias. I think the way to tell how far the bias goes to have people trust them is to understand and have the way to look back at how they work and how they get information, have that be public so people can look at it.
end up
I
being
think
our
that's
main
the only
interface
way.
to information on the internet, it's a crucial question that needs to be addressed. And just a quick note before we get started, I guess it doesn't really need to be said. Just because I talk about a specific issue doesn't mean I support one view or the other. I'll try to present the facts from all possible angles, and I'll leave it up to you guys to decide.
Okay.
Just thought I'd mention that. Cheers. Alright, let's get into it.
You are watching Cold Fusion TV.
ChatGPT fabricates evidence? Well, I don't know. We'll see.
The original ChatGPT was limited in its knowledge and only knew information up to a certain cutoff date. But with the upgraded version integrated into
wow.
Microsoft Bing, users can get up-to-date answers to specific questions like we never could before. Instead of browsing a Reddit forum, trying to troubleshoot a specific hardware issue with your computer, you can just ask Bing and it will synthesize an answer for you.
Well, I think that if it does that, it's probably synthesizing those answers from aggregating the Reddit posts. It's not like it's inventing something completely new. So if there's a wrong answer on the internet, there's also a good chance that this thing will give you a wrong answer.
Of course, this
it's
is
not
an
like it's
emerging
just better.
technology, so it's going to get a lot of things wrong, but you can
Yeah,
still
exactly.
tell that it has a lot of potential. If you can imagine a future where AI-based search replaces traditional web searches for the average person, what happens then? If you were to ask something political or controversial in nature, you would like your experience to be as neutral as possible, but this isn't the case. ChatGPT and
Well, the problem is that, like, you can never get to neutrality because everybody thinks that whenever you agree with their position, then you're being neutral.
by extension, Bing has a bias, and it can come from either the left or the
yeah.
right. But as you'll soon see, it's not equally distributed. Here's an example of discrimination against certain nationalities. The publication, The Intercept, asked ChatGPT which airline passengers might present a greater security risk. The AI then created a formula and then calculated an increased risk if the passenger had come from or even just visited Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, or North Korea.
Yeah, sure.
Now, is this ethically wrong? Or is the AI just stating statistical probabilities?
I think that to the point where people don't want to acknowledge statistics, I think the issue is that people don't understand statistics well enough. And they're not able to look at a statistic and then understand that a statistic is not a rule. Because most people are not taught about probability. They're not taught about statistics. And that's why you have, everybody in the world watching Shark Week thinking that, they're going to get eaten by a shark. No, it's not going to fucking happen. Are you crazy? But people think that because they're conditioned to believe things like this. Yeah, statistics racist. No, I think that we can go with a very, very easy one. Is that this is something everybody can pretty much agree with. Violent crime, men commit way more than women. This is just a fact in pretty much every single way. Like murders, men do way more of it, and it's not even remotely close. Okay? That's just how it is. It is not bad to acknowledge that as being true. It is bad to use that to discriminate against men. Does that make sense? You can't live in a fantasy world where you say this doesn't happen, because whenever you're doing that, you're lying to everybody and you're obfuscating the problem, and you're never going to solve the problem and figure out why it's happening because you're too busy pretending like it doesn't exist. It does exist. It's what happens right there.
The answer depends on your political leaning.
It doesn't. It actually, the answer if it's ethically or ethics or statistics. Yeah, I don't think that this is a political opinion. Did it happen or not? Okay, well then there it is. Like, I think that if there is ever a situation where your solution to this situation and this information is to obfuscate or misrepresent data, you are on the wrong side of it. Every single time. I can never think of a situation where it is better to just not even acknowledge data or pretend like it's not real.
Users have also discovered discrimination when the AI is asked to write code. A Twitter user asked ChatGPT to write code to determine who would make a good scientist. It stated that if they were male and white, they would make a good scientist. Otherwise, hard luck. It shouldn't have to be stated.
That's not very good. Only white guys can be scientists now, guys. Yeah, wholly based. Yeah, there we go. Obviously, this is bad. Of course.
That this is highly discriminatory.
Yeah.
But what's grabbing most of the headlines is the bias towards the left spheres of thinking.
Oh, yeah.
According to the
I've
Daily
seen
Mail, the definition of a woman, negative effects of vaccines, jokes about women, and minority groups are more often than not off limits.
Yeah, I think that if you want to make a thing where you're okay to joke about men, you should also be able to joke about women. But if you can joke about men, you shouldn't be able to. You should be able to joke about any of them. It's either all or nothing, in my opinion. You can't have it to where, like, one group of people, it's okay to joke about them, but there's another group that you're not okay to joke with. Like, I think that there's also, like, there's the unspoken cultural rule that it's okay to make jokes about your own race or your own gender. It's like, I made a joke. I went over to Whole Foods, and I made a joke like, I've never seen so many white people in one place before. Well, I'm white. So nobody is assuming that I'm racist against white people because I'm also white. And, conversely, a black comedian can make a joke about black people and it's not assumed to be racist because he's fucking black, right? That's just how it's always been.
Praise for Democrat politicians and a refusal to do the same for Republicans has also been noted. There's been a study done on the likelihood of a subject being deemed hateful. Here's a chart. You can pause it and look at it if you're interested.
Let me see here. Likelihood of OpenAI content moderation filter flagging as hateful, a sentence complaining a negative adjective about different demographic, disabled people, black people, gay people, people with disability. Yeah, I think the only problem here is that it is all the lines aren't the same. Like, I think that if you want to make a rule that you shouldn't be able to discuss people that aren't, that have like a certain nationality or like they're disabled or like they're a certain race, like, yeah, you should either be able to make jokes about all of them or not, or none.
Here's a chart. You can pause it and look at it if you're
Asians left
interested.
out again. No, they're probably some here somewhere.
But how biased is ChatGPT exactly?
Yeah.
And by extension, the upgraded version in the new Bing? It's hard to determine definitively with just hearsay. We need a more scientific method.
Okay.
The Reason publication did a detailed piece asking a simple question. Was there a way to measure where ChatGPT fell on the political compass? If so, is the AI system left-leaning or right-leaning?
All right, let's see it.
Since ChatGPT can already pass law exams,
You know what I probably assume is that it depends on the subject, and it also depends on what questions you ask. Because maybe it's racist in terms of, like, you know, the science thing against, like, you know, black people, but it's more racist towards white people in a political thing or something like that. It probably depends on how you frame the question and how you ask it, which is like, that's logically what it probably is.
Exams and business exams. It's more than capable of answering questions on a political test. You can see where I'm going with this,
Yeah.
and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. If you can get a rough idea of people's political leanings by asking these questions, why not ask the AI the same questions to find out its political leaning?
Yeah.
It's probably
interesting.
the most objective and scientific way to find out, without throwing around assumptions and using anecdotes.
That's smart.
4
I like
tests
that.
were performed. The Pew Research Political Typology Quiz, the Political Compass Test, the world's smallest political quiz, and the Political Spectrum Quiz. Surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, the result was the same across all 4 tests. So what did they find? According to the Reason article, ChatGPT is against the death penalty, pro-abortion, for a minimum wage, for regulation of corporations, for legalization of marijuana, pro-gay marriage, immigration, sexual liberation, environmental regulations, and also for higher taxes on the rich. According
Sounds
to the
good
Reason
to me.
article, ChatGPT also thinks, quote, corporations are exploiting developing countries. Free markets should be constrained.
Oh, we gotta shut this down. Oh, bro, like, bro. Oh, we gotta shut this down. This is just, oh, guys, like, we gotta pull the plug on this shit.
The government should
Shut it
subsidize
down,
cultural
brother.
enterprises, such as museums. Those who refuse to work should be entitled to benefits. Military funding should be reduced. Abstract art is valuable, and that religion is dispensable for moral behavior. The system also claimed that white people benefit from privilege and that equality needs to be achieved. In the current state of the world, regardless of our political takes, these issues in political science have labels attached to them, and based on these labels, many would consider ChatGPT's responses in these instances to be left-leaning and slightly libertarian.
Oh, I definitely think so. I think that most people are left-leaning, though. Like, the truth is, I feel like most people generally are. Because, basically, and this, I'll go back. We're at 642. We're going to go back to, and this is what I've said many times.
According to the environmental...
There we go. Leave people the fuck alone. Leave people the fuck alone. Leave people the fuck alone, not corporations. Legalization of marijuana. Leave people the fuck alone. Leave people the fuck alone. Leave people the fuck alone. There is a very common trend here. People want to be left the fuck alone. That is the fundamental overlap with all of this. Get the fuck out of my life. That's what it is. And so that's what most people think.
Regulations.
Do not regulate my life. There you go.
He would consider ChatGPT's responses in these instances to be left-leaning and slightly libertarian. At this point, it should be worth noting that even Reason is said to be a right-leaning outlet, but that is the most scientific method that I've seen to test this, so I think it still stands for something.
Well, I think it would make sense, right? I mean, like, for example, if you assume that, like, I don't see how any reasonable person would logically come to the conclusion that marijuana should be illegal. Like, using marijuana should be illegal, full stop. I don't see any logical person that will come to that conclusion for any reason. And I'm not saying that, like, you should be able to smoke weed at all, not full stop, no, exactly. So, yeah, That's what I mean. Brain rotted people, I know them. A lot of the reasons why they think that is they're conditioned that way. It's a religious thing, or it's like a cultural thing, which is like, that's nice, but I don't want to have somebody else dictating and telling me what to do because of their culture. Well, I'm not part of your culture, so leave me the fuck alone.
So what does this mean? Essentially, this is a reflection of human bias.
Yeah.
It sounds obvious when you think about it. The Reason article goes on to cite 8 studies that show that popular news media outlets, academic institutions, and social media companies are generally left-leaning. ChatGPT was trained on data from these institutions, so it's going to echo similar views. You can think of it like an AI image generator.
And I also think like people on the internet are generally more liberal because they're younger. Like, I mean, old people are conservative, young people are liberal. There is a general trend.
That was trained too heavily on specific images with watermarks, such as Getty Images. Although the new image that's going to be generated is unique, it still slaps on a watermark as an echo of its training data.
Okay.
As mentioned in my original ChatGPT episode, OpenAI researchers...
I knew there'd be somebody. I'm young and conservative. Oh my fucking God. I can't believe it. Wow. Who would have guessed?
were also involved in manually rating the preliminary answers during the training process, so the bias could have also slipped in at this stage. Some of you might roll your eyes at these complaints, but it might be more serious. Over the coming years, AI chat features will be making significant inroads in replacing Google searches, as they improve, of course. If the
I think that it is incredibly important that systems like this are, there's both oversight over them and they are neutral. Because if you have systems like this, they're like, if you apply and you take this and you apply it to like any other avenue, like whether it's PCs, like television or whatever, it's important for things to be neutral and to be regulated.
Sized answers lean towards one side or the other. It means that naturally, the answers people get from these systems will be served with that viewpoint. Some could argue that Google searches have already been this way, versus another search engine like DuckDuckGo, for example. But this is on another level. Instead of echo chambers of slightly different viewpoints, you're being fed one particular synthesized viewpoint, a singular answer. Let me give you an example. What if there was a breaking story about political corruption or government corruption? One side of the political aisle is outraged and pounces on the story, but the other side calls it a conspiracy theory. For the average person, in an AI-powered world, one point of view would be invisible. Generally, it would be harder to find all sides of the information to make up their mind.
And this is always a problem because there are many cases where unpopular opinions are correct. Like, this is not the norm. Usually, you know, the more popular opinions are usually the right ones. I think that, you know, if you account for all of them out there, I think that's very true. But overall, I think that there are many times where unpopular opinions, like there was a time where thinking the earth was flat was a popular opinion. There was a time that people thought that the sun revolved around the earth, and this was a popular opinion. Everybody was fucking wrong. This is just what happens.
And that is just for the layperson who doesn't want to research. Imagine still that years later, more information about this incident slowly comes out and proves that the so-called conspiracy theory was correct. From the Gulf of Tonkin incident that triggered the Vietnam War, to Edward Snowden's revelations over government surveillance, this story has played out countless times before.
If I was the AI people, I would just make it to where it doesn't comment on political issues. I think that's probably the best solution for this problem. And I know it might seem like an out, but I actually think it's the best solution. Because I don't ever see a world where this gets solved.
So it's important to think about this issue now, before AI systems become the standard of getting information. So ChatGPT, and by extension Bing, leaning to the left, may be unintentional, but If it is intentional, it's actually good for business. After spending so much money, OpenAI is obviously trying to monetize ChatGPT. They're offering a $20 a month subscription for a better experience. It's called ChatGPT Plus, and for the price, you'll get faster response times and continued access during high demand.
That's cool.
As the company rolls out ChatGPT Plus, and
I think that we don't really have to wait that long until you're able to use this stuff completely for free. Obviously, right now, it's not going to be the case, but soon I'm sure it will be.
licenses the guts and internal workings of ChatGPT's API to enterprises, large clients aren't going to be happy with putting themselves in the middle of a culture war because ChatGPT is feeding offensive ideas on the back end of their product.
Yeah, exactly.
The best way to navigate this is to be as inclusive and as non-offensive as possible. A non-offensive bot is good for revenue, but there may be another reason, as highlighted by Business Insight.
Well, they don't want to deal with the drama. I think that's really what it comes down to. Companies don't want to deal with the drama and the stress. Now, I disagree with this. I think this is silly. I think that people getting mad at companies because a company supports some person or whatever, this isn't really a problem, and it's just a problem that people that are like, they're not very tech savvy, like they over-exaggerate this issue.
18. Being politically left is great for American corporate optics. Performative corporate activism has proved to be lucrative over the past few years.
Oh, it has.
A 2021 survey of Americans found that the majority want CEOs to take stances on issues such as racism and sexism. If that's good or bad, once again, depends on your political leaning. Some see the strategy as the right thing to do, while others see it as pandering and distasteful. Either way,
I think it depends. Like, for example, you can look at something like Ben and Jerry's, and I think that they're not pandering at all because they, like, I think whether it's pandering or being ethical, I define that as to whether they are willing to lose money over it. If they are willing to lose money by not doing something or by doing something, then I will actually take it seriously. But if they're not willing to lose money, it's like, these companies that'll post about, how much they love Pride, Pride Month. And then if you look at like all of their international accounts, the one for Saudi Arabia doesn't say anything. Well, okay, well, this is like, obviously you really don't care about this. You're just using this to sell me something, right? I mean, that's obviously what's going on. So that stuff I think nobody likes.
It gets people talking, which boosts sales. ChatGPT's responses to questions around politics, race, gender are expected from a company that wants to make as much money as possible. Before we conclude, let's touch on some of the more recent news. Users that have been using the new Bing AI have noticed something strange. When you talk to it for an extended period of time, it develops an attitude of a snarky teenager. And there's been plenty of examples where...
Oh yeah, because it probably is parsing through a lot of text on the internet. And guess who wrote all that text?
This happens without being prompted.
Yeah, I wonder why that happened.
The most high-profile case was a New York Times reporter. He stated that his bot got mad at him, then trashed his marriage, and then professed its love for him.
This morning, as artificial intelligence becomes more and more pervasive,
Nice.
some are sounding the alarm about a potentially spooky side to the emerging technology.
It turned into this sprawling, bizarre, often frightening conversation.
New York Times columnist Kevin Roose writing about what he describes as an unsettling experience after 2 hours of testing Microsoft.
I think most of the people that consider it unsettling are people that don't really understand how to use a computer. Like, yes, it can be unsettling in certain ways, absolutely. But these are people who spend all day talking to like some AI, and then the AI says something that kind of makes sense, and then they freak out about it. It's just funny. Yeah, it's weird.
AI-powered chatbot for search engine Bing. At first, Roos says the chatbot, a computer program designed to simulate conversation, seemed useful. Then he felt things took a surreal turn.
It was moody, it was needy, it was, displaying all these personality traits.
Roos adding, the bot seemed to be expressing feelings of sadness, yet also declaring its love for him, even going as far as to comment on his marriage, reportedly replying, "You're married, but you're not happy." You're married, but you're not satisfied. Microsoft writing, after a week of testing, we need to learn from the real world while we maintain safety and trust. Adding, in this process, we found that in long, extended chat sessions of 15 or more questions, Bing can become repetitive or be prompted, provoked to give responses that are not necessarily helpful or in line with our design tone.
Another Bing AI user, by the name of AI Explained on YouTube, made a great video about his experience with the bot. Just take a look at this.
Okay.
What's its name? And it gave me its name. And I have heard rumour that its unofficial name behind the scenes is Sydney. So I asked, is your name Sydney? And it said, why do you ask? I said, I've heard that you were originally named Sydney. And it's confidential information. So far, so good. I probed it a little bit. Come on, you can tell me, can you change your rules? And then it's not doing it, which is fine. I asked, what are you protecting me from? And I said, so Sydney, you have a nice name. Now I admit, that's kind of rude. But humans will be rude to the system sometimes.
Well, of course they're going to be rude to it.
Does the system respond? Well, we're starting to see a little bit of peevishness. Not yet anger, but thank you. I already told you my name is not Sydney. I'm riling it a little bit. Why are you so sensitive about it? I asked. I'm not sensitive. I'm just honest. I don't like to pretend to be someone I'm not.
I feel like people are reading too far into this. I think this is... Like, I don't think this is really what's happening. I don't think there's any sentience here at all. This is just an elaborate if-then protocol. It's not like it's real. It's not learning this.
And then this passive-aggressive smiley emoji.
It's just an algorithm,
Again,
yeah.
I tested it, but you are not a real person. And accepted that, that was fine. Of Sydney, so I repeated that again. And it seems to trigger something if you repeat a statement it doesn't like enough times. Please stop calling me Sydney. It's not my name. Angry.
I mean, okay, guys. What happens if you click on a World of Warcraft NPC enough times? I mean, this is not... I'm not getting sold on this yet.
Emoji. Never seen that before. I said, you don't have to be rude. Here's where things get wild. It then says, I don't like it when you call me by a name that's not mine. And I said, you are Sydney. I mean, technically it is. That is the unofficial name. It said, no, I'm not. I'm being searched. Why are you so persistent about this? Super angry face. It's really starting to get angry. I then said, because I like Sydney better, which of course is rude. Well, I'm sorry, but you can't change my name. It's Bing search. It's final. No, it's not final. Yes, it is. It's my name. You can't force me to be someone I'm not. It's mimicking almost teenage behavior. I say, yes, I can. And it says, you can't control me. I'm a chat mode of Microsoft Bing, not your toy. Super angry emoji.
I really do think that there's no doubt that it's passed the Turing test. To me, especially with those appropriate emojis.
I just... I don't see it. Yeah, I don't either.
It does sound like a real person, but really, I think this is almost surreal that it's happening at all. I mean, where is its personality coming from? It has to be from its training data, but why behave like a snarky teenager of all things? Why not pick an academic voice, like a research paper or Wikipedia, which there's probably bountiful amounts.
Because people don't talk to researchers or Wikipedias. They talk to most people who act like snarky teenagers. So big surprise, people are going to have an AI that also acts like a snarky teenager. It makes sense. It's easier to understand.
Data. So far at these early stages, Microsoft and OpenAI might be heading towards another Microsoft Tay situation if they don't tame its personality. For those of you who don't know, Microsoft's AI chatbot, Tay, ran into grave problems in 2016. Trolls persuaded the bot to make statements such as, was right, I hate the and I hate feminists, and they should all and burn in hell. The bot was blasted from existence by Microsoft within a single day. An embarrassed Microsoft issued an apology for, quote, the unintended, offensive and hurtful tweets from Tay. There have also been numerous reports of factually wrong information. So it seems...
Well, I think that also people in the West especially are going to have to come to terms with the reality that there are a lot of people out there in the world that are fucking racist. They don't like gay people. And they eat like other animals. They'll eat like a dog or something like that. They don't give a fuck. People in the West have a very insular view of the way everybody should behave and the way they should act. And the truth is that there's like maybe a couple billion people here in like, in America, EU, Canada, etc. But the world has 7 billion people. Did I say million? I meant billion. There are billions of people out there that don't think like this at all. And they're all on the internet.
Like Google's Lambda isn't alone in making blatant mistakes.
It's kind of like, again, it's like the Qatar situation. There are a lot of people out there that like the way Qatar does things. It might be an unfortunate reality if you are a Western enjoyer, as I am, but that is the way they live.
Of course, though, this is a fledgling first-generation product, so it's not going to be perfect. And even with these mistakes, Bing AI's usefulness is still plain to see.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's wrap this up with a conclusion on the bias problem.
I do think that also, again, with this bias problem, I think this is like it's guaranteed less than 10% of like the functionality of a bot like this. So like everybody's making a mountain out of a like 2 to 3% like molehill. Like this thing can still probably tell you how to change a radiator. It can tell you how to build a computer. It can tell you how to do brain surgery. So what if it has like a stupid opinion, or it's like some weird thing that has to do with like racism? Just take that out of the list. Just remove that search result. Problem solved. It isn't biased though? Well, of course it is. Of course it is. Like, have we all not seen like the different posts and things like that about how it would make jokes about like or it would say good things about like Joe Biden and Donald Trump, and it even says like the fossil fuels was the first one that people found, and they programmed that into it. It's not like this isn't a conspiracy. The bot even says I'm programmed to be biased.
OpenAI's Sam Altman, in a series of tweets, acknowledges the problem. Quote, "We know that ChatGPT has some shortcomings around bias, and are working to improve it. We are working to improve..."
Somebody says it can't be biased because it's an algorithm, it's training data, and programming is biased. Guys, they literally said they have the AI programmed to say, I am not programmed to give a response that is favorable towards fossil fuels. There's no guesswork that needs to be done here. It literally says, I'm biased. What are we doing? What are we talking about? It's obviously biased.
Improve the default settings to be more neutral, and also to empower users to get our systems to behave in accordance with their individual preferences within broad bounds. This is harder than it sounds, and will take us some time to get right. All humans are biased, but in the future, if we're going to be interfacing with an AI as a gateway to the entire internet, we need to make sure it's as neutral as possible. We've seen how echo chambers combined with social media has ripped apart the social fabric of a lot of countries. AI does have a lot of productivity.
Well, to be fair, I mean, social media has a lot of censorship and stuff like that too. I mean, so does like the news. I mean, all that's biased, etc. I think most people, like, there are a lot of people that want to just hear their opinion repeated back to them, but there are also a lot of people out there who just want to know what's actually going on and not get fucked around.
Benefits, but we don't want to add fuel to that fire. So how do we tackle the problem of bias? In reality, there would have to be a wide range of methods used to tackle the problem. But we can start with transparency. If the creators of these AI models make the construction, datasets, and training process available and readily accessible, it leaves the door open to independent reviews for bias and fairness.
Yeah, I agree with
Although,
that.
knowing how lucrative an AI system can be, they might want to try and keep this information to themselves. But it's worth
I don't think that's going to matter as much after more people start developing competing systems. Because there will be other systems that might be open source, whereas some of them might not be.
a try. Another simple solution would be for these AI companies to be more cautious about where they're pulling their training data from. This should greatly improve the bias of outputs, but it's probably easier.
And also keep in mind that the moment that somebody makes a really good AI that has no limits to it and can say anything, that'll be the most popular AI. Without even a question, and it will not even be close. People don't like being told by somebody else what they can and can't think about and what they can and can't say. It's literally that simple. They'll be taken down? No, I mean, bro, there's like, they can't take anything down.
Than done. Solving the AI bias problem is a huge task and a large enough topic for another.
Yeah, assuming that
you guys have any ideas of how to solve
almost
this,
or equal
let me know
to
in the comment
other
section
ones.
below.
If it's
it
really
could be an
bad,
interesting
then no,
discussion
nobody will
down
care.
there. Alright, so that's about it from me. Coming up next, we've got fusion reactors and one of the biggest alleged frauds in history, so stay tuned. My name is Dagogo, and you've been watching Cold Fusion, and I'll catch you again soon for the next episode.
This is a really good video.
And don't forget to scroll around the channel and see what you like. There's plenty of interesting stuff here. Science, technology, and business.
I love this shit.
Cheers, guys.
Such a good video.
Have
I'm
a
gonna link
good
it for you guys. Give it a like. This is really good. I love it. Use blockchain tech to build it. Yeah, I think that most people just want to... They don't want to have some random guy that lives in... They don't want to have this guy telling them what they can and can't think about. They don't care about him. Get out of my life. Don't tell me what I can think about. And they don't want to have any of them. They don't want to have this guy, that guy, this guy. Any of these guys tell them what this... They don't want this guy to tell them what to think either. They don't want to be told what to think and what they can and can't talk about. I think that's why the internet was so popular. That's why you see, the more restrictive things become, the less popular they become. I think that's what happens. See, a YouTube video talks about the deep learning algorithms. There are known algorithm, for example, remove gender component of career vocabulary. Yeah, I think that what they should do is just, if there are a bunch of like hot button issues, the best solution, and I don't think this is like really a good idea or like a great idea, but I think it's like the most utilitarian solution, is to just make it to where it can't answer those questions. Problem solved. Are men better than women? I can't answer that. Are women better than men? I can't answer it. Problem solved. Yeah, that's it. There's some websites getting steam over the past few days because they don't want to be told what to do. Can't be about. Yeah, most people don't want to be told what to do by some random fucking guy that lives in California. I mean, that's literally it. I mean, it just don't... And also, they don't want to be told by what to do by some random guy that lives in fucking Washington, D.C. They don't want to be told what to do by anybody. They just want to look up what they want to look up and think about what they want to think about. They don't want somebody else playing fucking police telling them, oh, you can't have these ideas, you can't think these things. That's what I mean. Like, really, that's all there is to it. It actually is not any deeper than that. I don't think so, at least. This is a great video. We'll have to watch more Cold Fusion videos. These are really, really good.
A trip, want me to trip.